The following is a presentation of the ForceCenter podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is the ForceCenter podcast feed. In this episode is Q's of the F. Yes, every episode will lose more letters from the title of our show. I'm Joseph Scrimshaw.
I'm Ken Napzok. Sesame Street taught me that letters and numbers are important. So we just are sponsored today by Q's, F's, and A's.
Q's, F's, and A's. And a couple of those A's are plugs. Basically, we want to let you know that today's podcast is brought to you by an A. That A is Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. We are continuing to recommend Path to Deceit by Tessa Gratton and Justina Ireland, the first book in Phase 2 of the High Republic. We'll be reading this at some point. We need to discuss when. We just had like a business meeting before we record this and talked for like a half an hour, and we haven't discussed this, but we will. We're going to let you know that you can download that free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. One more time, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audiobook. Ken, we have another A.
Mm-hmm. It's called The Ask. And The Ask has been working, and we appreciate your support. We are building out our YouTube channel. We got cool things coming in 2023, including the debut of our YouTube-only series, Figure Fights. So we would love you to consider, and many of you have, heading over there and subscribing to the channel. We're trying to get to 7,000 subscribers next. That's the next plateau. Build slowly. Make some realistic goals. That's what we're doing. And you guys are all helping us out there. So if you want to head over there, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all those things you hear YouTubers say over the years. And we got some fun shows on the way. And Joseph, we should say we got our next live Q&A coming the end of January. We do about once a month. And we've got January 27th, 3 p.m. Pacific. We're moving it up slowly because we want to be nice to our friends all around the world. Maybe get our stream at a decent hour, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think we can announce that the Q&A this month will be a Q&A and an S&T, a show and tell, right?
It's absolutely going to be an S&T. We sound like we're talking about, financial institutions. Yes, we are very we are sponsored in part for the live stream and some episodes of the show with the fine folks at Gentle Giant and Diamond Select Toys. We've got some toys we're going to unbox. We're going to do some reviews as well. And eventually, soon, hopefully, if things go well and the reaction to the videos is great, we're going to have some giveaways for all of you out there. So cool things coming in 2023 at ForceCenter. It's been a long journey. We love the twists and turns in our career. We are 9th broadcast season, 8th year working together, and we got even more new things coming. And we appreciate all of your support out there. That was an ask into just an affirmation, I think.
Still more A's. Yeah, just thank you to everyone who's been very supportive of our YouTube journey. It's been really fun because we asked for like, I can't remember what, a smaller number and 6,500, I think, and hit it. Like, yeah, like let's go for the next 500. And it was great. It was like a sports movie. We had plateaued and it was like, oh no, we left it on the field, and then we've been rocketing back up, and we're getting quite close to 7,000 now. So thank you all for going with us on that journey.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, and it's been fun. We're still, we love doing the podcast side. We think podcast without video is a different feel and a feel we like, but we are definitely excited to show you our faces even more. We got some cool episodes coming with figure fights and a lot more.
Yeah, exactly. Very excited for that. But for now, let's get to our cues. This is questions of the Force, if we're going to use full big words. And we have 2 questions, as always, from Twitter and 2 from our patrons on Patreon. We go first to Twitter, and this comes to us from Fired Up Cyborg, a great name. Fired Up Cyborg says, "Hey, friends. Fallen Order features a fantastic song from The Who Band. What are some other examples of music you think would fit in the Star Wars universe? I can totally picture Ahsoka chilling and listening to some synthwave while staring out a window on a rady Coruscant dusk." This is great. I paused there because I realized I'm not entirely sure I was pronouncing that band's name correctly. Ken, I think I remember vaguely being aware that there was, this known band's music in Fallen Order, but this was fun to do the deep dive. The band is a Mongolian folk metal band formed in 2016, and you can find different versions of the song on YouTube. And I believe it in the video game, it's when you, Cal, have been captured by the pirates, the crime lord, and have to fight in the arena.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I was doing that as well. Because remember the song, but you don't connect it right away. You're worried about, am I going to get sliced by animals and stuff? So I did what you did as well, and was listening to this great Mongolian band's music. They got a lot of things that could have appeared in video games or movies. They're soundtrack ready.
What do you think of the song, and did you enjoy it in the context of Fallen Order, or were you too busy? Hey, that's nice that there's music, but I'm fighting for my life.
Yeah. Totally that, and totally was aware of it, and like, oh, that's right, there was a song, and Fired Up Cyborg, which is a great name for this question, got me thinking about it, and I did the dive this morning over coffee, just researching discussion overall, but had a lot of fun listening to this band and just watch what they're putting together. Such a unique, wonderful band. Like I said, I brought them up on the old streaming music sites and was like, oh, I'd write a movie scene around this one. Oh, this one, great, interesting sound. I'd love to know how the music coordinator or supervisor found them and connected it with Star Wars. That's a fascinating little sub story. I'd love to dig into that.
Yeah, I have no idea how that works. I wonder if it is a matter of, we want this vibe. We could find existing music for this vibe to give it a different flavor, and it really, really works, I think. The music in Oga's Cantina, all throughout Galaxy's Edge, but in Oga's Cantina in particular, makes me really excited to hear more different kinds of music in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So want to get to the specifics of Fired Up Cyborg's question about what other real world music would fit into Star Wars. But I first just want to take your temperature, Ken, because I'm curious how you're feeling at this point about real music in Star Wars. It's kind of got this long history, right, of some of the music internal to Star Wars that we hear sounds very alien to us, right? The modal node sounded to me as a kid really alien. It still sounds alien, but then I got older and it's like, oh, that's Benny Goodman with some weird noises added to make it alien in space, and it fit with the time period of New Hope's nostalgia for the real world, for earlier in the 20th century. But then as Star Wars goes on, I think there's a feeling like it can't sound too real world. It can't sound too modern, whatever that is. Where are you at with all that these days?
I think it is a case-by-case basis, and if I'm being honest with myself, because, the modal node's a great example of, well, that's not, it's John Williams music, but it's not like, it's not the score, right? It's in the, and I just, of course, I'm vibe with that. And Lapti Neck, come on, right? Like, even the Ewok Celebration, the original ending to Return of the Jedi, that's the Ewok band playing with the Augie's great municipal band at the end of Phantom Menace. I love that kind of stuff. But I also understand rubbing up against hearing normal music. It's just, I think it's because Williams did such a good job, and you just expected the scores playing in the character's head just as much as we're listening to. The Star Wars Visions was it the Jedi Rocks episode is still my favorite episode of Star Wars Visions, and I know that's not fair to everybody. And it's a modern pop rock band. I just love everything about that. About who you are is what you are, and you can use that strength to help in the galaxy. And I think there's some powerful themes in that episode. But I've had a lot of friends who are just like, the music. So I really come down to case by case basis about what do I want to hear a Star Wars band have a song in universe? Do I want to hear a real world song in Star Wars? I would not, but at the same time, I could be open to it. I'll end my rant here. I ended up being a big fan of the Willow series. The first couple episodes, I was like trying to find my way through it, and I realized, I don't need to find my way through it. It's not a story for me; it's for other people, and I love it. I love what it did. Every episode ended with a modern cover of a classic song, or in some cases, the actual song, including Dire Straits. And I loved it. And people had pitchforks over it, ready to burn it all down. It wasn't in the show, but it was the very end beat. And I thought it worked very effectively. I thought it was wonderful. But I understand it's not for everybody. So it's an interesting question in Star Wars. Would it work? Could it work?
Yeah. I think for me, I used to want Star Wars music that is, internal to the world of Star Wars, that it's musicians playing to feel, really alien and otherworldly. And I still want that. But I also accept that time moves on. And, if you were the right age in 1977 when Star Wars came out, the modal notes didn't sound that otherworldly. That's the music I listened to when I was a teen.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
that's my first date with my partner is basically that music, but not played by weird bulbous head guys. So I think I've gotten a little less I didn't want to hear rock beats in Star Wars. That sounded too modern. But now there's a lot of Kevin Kiner stuff in Clone Wars and Rebels with the drum beat. I like. I think what really helped me clarify that I'm super open to almost any style of music in Star Wars, as long as it is taken. As long as there's an element that's gives it a little bit more bizarre, alien, otherworldly sound.
Yes.
That's what all the music to me in Oga's Cantina does really well. There's a wide variety of kinds of music. I did that Rebels rewatch, and I really loved it. Only had a couple things where that sort of bump that I had the first time I watched it is still there. But most of that went away. I used to be bothered by the thin lightsabers. Got used to it. Didn't care. Didn't bother me. The one thing that I was like, yep, still don't like that. In the Chopper's Base episode, I believe, there is a scene where Zeb is just kind of kicking back and listening to a song. And it's just like late 80s, 90s kind of power pop meets heavy metal rock. And they're just like, there's just nothing too alien about it. And I realized that's my bump. It's not the drum beat. It's not that's the music that existed in the real world when I was, a young man. It's that there's no extra weird flair that makes it sound alien, not just one-to-one to the real world.
I'm with you on that, and it's hard to put an exact finger on all of this, and that's why I think this is definitely a question. As with music overall, right? Your music finds you, I believe, and you can grow and change and appreciate different styles, and everything. But so it is with Star Wars. I think I'm with you on that moment. I think there's again the Jedi Rocks Star Wars Vision episode. That I have people who are like, "Are you crazy?" Like friends of mine, like, that's the one you like of all those. I was like, yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I'm with you. Andor, the drums coming in, that was the end of it. You're so right. To Kevin Kiner and his view on Star Wars music, both taking adding drums, the overriding drums sound in the main Star Wars theme was like, what is this guy doing? And now it's like one of my favorite things. And then Filoni talking about it in that Mando behind the scenes series, the Disney Gallery of we were doing some stuff over there, and now you got even the Mando stuff. I'm with you. I just has to be case by case. Has to be. Yeah. And there's even that I've really come to love in the Clone Wars film when they're climbing to the monastery on Teth. There's a real drive and rock beat, which I used to not like, and now I love it. Great. So anyway, that's a little bit of our take. I'm sure lots of people have takes on what music they feel fits in Star Wars, but let's get back to a Fired Up Cyborg specific question. Is there any real world tracks or close to real world tracks that you feel would work in Star Wars, and where? Yeah. So, we love talking music around here. You and I both big fans of all kinds of music and artists. And I think my gut reaction to this was to go to some places that I've even talked about before. How many times do you mention David Bowie here? You and I are both big fans of Lady Gaga. And I was like, there's always an ethereal out of world experience in some of their choices. Right. And so that could be a natural fit, but I wanted to go into Fired Up Cyborg did a great little thought starter here with this Ahsoka chilling and listening to some synthwave while staring out on a window on a rainy course. Coruscant inspires so much stuff. And I went through, it's not a genre I go to first, but the EDM genre and Gaga's 2013 art pop album was all playing in that genre. It's all that kind of stuff. Kind of the harder electronic sound that Bowie had in the 90s comes to mind, the Earthling album, all that stuff. So I went Barred from Willow here, and I have 4 songs now. I'll just go through them here. I could play them, but I don't want to, who knows? You think about some union not wanting to play songs without money, which I understand. Anyways, the old radio man in me is standing up. I love weird covers. I love straight ahead covers. I love different versions. I love remixes. I really do. That's why I like the Willow stuff. So here's, Joseph, I got the Creep cover by Nalick with Haley Reinhart. And then remixed by, I said Byor, Byor, showing my unhipness here. It's a great EDM cover of Creep. There's a lot of different versions. That's the remix I loved. I picked this all out over my coffee this morning. Seven Nation Army, the White Stripe song, covered by DJ Fluke and Jackie Nelson. Great. It belongs with like a Jedi taking a final stand against some evil in the galaxy, taking on seven Galaxy Army. Running Up That Hill, of course, we had the Stranger Things use of it. Bombs Away, and Regan did a cover of it. I highly recommend that. And then the final one, I may have thrown this in for you, buddy. The Fifth Guys, Invisible, and the Late Night Project. A lot of people working together on these EDM songs, covering Sweet Child O' Mine.
Man.
EDM, Coruscant, Star Wars playlist. You could put them in anything that Fire Cyborg's describing here. Ahsoka looking out over the Jedi Temple. It would work.
Okay, now, my new headcanon. People have kind of played with Sweet Child of Mine. If you listen to the lyrics, it's clearly about a dating relationship. But the titles sometimes get used as though it's, about an actual child. Guns N' Roses, strangely, I haven't read it yet, but I bought it, strangely put out like a children's book called Sweet Child of Mine. Like, okay, this is weird, but all right, okay. So now in my headcanon, after Anakin leaves and doesn't look back, Shmi goes back into the house and listens to that version of Sweet Child of Mine.
Sweet Child of Mine. It's great. It's great. I've been listening to them all morning.
Well, I got to check that one out. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I went much like you said to some of our standbys first of Bowie and Gaga in particular. Last January 8th, I believe, for David Bowie's birthday, I bought Low, 1977 album for very Star Wars time. There's some great instrumental songs on there that I think you could just drop those straight in to moody Jedi in the High Republic, a moody Padawan is blasting Low in their little Jedi bedroom. I think that would work totally for me, and maybe Bells Out of Fires into that. I don't know. And then I feel like I don't know if there's any one specific song, but like I think a lot of Gaga's songs, particularly from her latest album, from Chromatica, that have a sort of alien sound. They have a dystopian sci-fi sound.
Yeah.
So I feel like, especially if you even just took the lyrics out and just used the music, you could absolutely drop them into a club on Canto Bight. I mean, I want there to be a whole story where Lady Gaga plays an alien singer who has a residency on Canto Bight. Yeah. And then I don't know if I found like very specific tracks other than some of the instrumentals on Low where I'd be like, just drop them in. No problem. What I was really thinking about is what real world songs could you take the song, do the song with slightly different instrumentation to make it a little bit more otherworldly, change all of the, lyrics to Huttese or some other Star Wars language, and then you'd be just fine. I want to see, Ken, a pod racing scene where the song from the band Cake, I really like the band Cake, the song The Distance, but it's in Huttese and it's got a theremin and it's just in the background of a pod racing scene.
I love Cake. That is a great band. 90s people unite here. That's amazing. I love that idea. I see. You got me thinking too of like who's like another artist who's got that kind of sci-fi alien feel. Put Björk. Put her just. And I don't even need one of her songs. Just say, go write a Star Wars song. And I'll see what she comes up with.
Yeah, go write a song. Yeah, that would be awesome. Or just play a character, Björk. That'd be great.
Yep.
And here's my final one. This is not, again, you couldn't just drop it in. You just need to do a Star Wars-ified interpretation of the actual song. But I would love for like maybe some straight-laced Jedi to walk into kind of a dangerous cantina or saloon, and a Star Wars version of the Beastie Boys' So What You Want is just blaring.
That's a good, that could work.
Very, very challenging. Like, oh boy. Okay. Well, these are some rough and ready fellows in this cantina. We're going to have to.
Love it. Love
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
This is a very fun thought exercise. And thanks, Fired Up Cyborg, for the question and the reminder about that music and giving a chance for me to listen to that song. This is awesome.
Yeah, no, great stuff. And I also love that, if we had done this podcast in like 1983, we'd be suggesting Styx and Mr. Roboto. So sci-fi, man.
Do you think 3PO was really into Mr. Roboto?
Yeah. Oh, yes. That was his jam.
Yeah. I mean, it's very polite. I want to thank you. It's basically protocol.
That's amazing.
Please. All right. We're going to move on to our next question. Comes to us also from Twitter from Steve Coleman. Steve says, "Hi, friends who get me to work every morning. I can't stop thinking about a Star Wars Resistance Season 3 and what can happen with the Colossus and its inhabitants. What do they do after Exegol? So many possibilities. How about you?" Where you at with this one, Ken? Do you want a Season 3 of Star Wars Resistance?
Yeah, I do. I want to kind of go back and once again rewatch Resistance. I had done so 2-3 years ago. Time flies during the pandemic, doesn't it? Yes. At one point, I actually finished up the whole series again. I would love that. It's not going to happen, unfortunately, but there's a lot to think about, and it was so open ended. But also, I thought emotionally and thematically, kind of came to a good close. So I would, and then I got a good pitch here, but I'm going to ask if you would want a third season.
I do. With an asterisk.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part of me that's two ways to look at it. I would like there to be a third season that maybe doesn't go past Exegol, but rather up to Exegol. We'll talk more about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a part of me that it loves what Steve's pitching of like, yeah, I would love to see how these characters and the Colossus and its community go forward after the total fall of the first and final orders.
Mm-hmm.
But I just get hung up on, I feel like that time period needs to be more defined, right?
Yeah.
And I just I want all of the storytellers to kind of have the elbow room to create that era, right? And I feel like if the films are going to define that era a little bit and what the challenges of it are, I almost want the films to come first. So I'm almost like, I would love if there was like a, 10th anniversary. Wow, did you grow up with Star Wars Resistance? It's back for a third season. So it has the elbow room to tell the story that it wants once the kind of parameters of that era are more defined by a film.
Love that idea. Yeah. I love the definition proposal here. I like the proposal of what we grew up with as TV movies of the week about Star Wars.
Well, there's just been this kind of understandable tension, I think, about not wanting to box in storytelling, right? I think that's what's been going on with some of the slight revisions in animation from things that were in publishing. I know with Tales of the Jedi was a much larger issue that isn't just about storytelling. It's about, changing characters who have a diverse and different perspective into other characters. So I know with Tales of the Jedi instance, that's kind of larger than just Star Wars. But I'm talking about just within Star Wars, right? Of like a little tweak to Kanan and little tweak to Ahsoka's lightsaber colors, all that kind of stuff. Like I want to avoid that, and I think it's kind of been great that I think behind the scenes, Favreau has been just like, don't tell extra stuff about the Mandalorian about Din in publishing right now, because we don't want to get into this little corrections here and there. And I think that's what I'm reacting to when I think of, well, if they just ran forward with the Star Wars Resistance Season 3 now, is that going to cause headaches down the line when somebody wants to do a film and like, well, we established this about the First Order remnants, but that would be like, I just don't want that to be a distraction for us in our Star Wars storytelling.
Yeah, and it can easily be, and this isn't a call for a plan. Remember those days? Right. No, it's a call for, exactly what you're saying. Let storytellers be storytellers, and there's so many different stories, and so many different mediums, and I'm not proposing that comics get pulled back. Comics are wonderful, but they're filling in so many blanks sometimes that I sometimes have that worry.
Yeah.
But anyways, focus on the positive. There's storytelling to be had, I think, with the Resistance crew.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said you had a pitch. I'm very curious about that.
Oh, okay. First of all, so the question is, what did they do after Exegol? So this starts with more drinks in Onzi's Tavern. Which is kind of also, right? That's how the second final season ends. Because they're going to save the day, and we need a drink. So I think that. But then I think you have this opportunity to take the Colossus crew around to systems, planets, down to the communities directly affected by the First Order. This is an idea of a front lines rebuild and a look towards a new dawn. You got the kids from Tahar, Kel and Elia, right? They can help the efforts. They understand that. Tam, who makes a redemption choice at the end, but I think maybe needs to build on the redemption, might know a little bit more about that, might feel compelled to not just make good for the part that she played with the First Order, but really be behind that. Kaz as well, and I think the fun part of it is when you go from system to planet to communities, you have this traveling city. You can supplies, and so you can give some free drinks, food, all those kind of things. But also part of the recovery is entertainment, and you have a race tour. Now you got these racers, and it can be a celebratory thing here. We're here to help you. We're here to provide needed supplies, comfort, all those kind of things. The First Order took that from you, but also, hey, racers, and you have this traveling circus of goodwill.
I love that. A traveling circus of goodwill. I love that. Yeah. And then, running into, pirates and people are trying to take advantage of the chaos and the confusion, right? Yeah, that'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
Be great. People always joke about the Cheers spinoff, the Star Wars Cheers spinoff, Aunt Z's. I'd probably just watch a show called Aunt Z's.
Right? Oh, totally would. Totally would.
What if Aunt Z took over the entire ship and the whole thing? Massive bar. That'd be great. I'm really happy with Resistance. I really enjoy it, and I do feel like they told their story and wove it in with major events of the sequel trilogy for sure. But I think also that there was that we can't go right up to Rise of Skywalker because of all the development phases that are going on. But now that Rise of Skywalker is stamped, it's there, it's done. Man, I would love if they just announced a season 3 revival, and I feel like they left off with enough room to still tell more of the story of what the galaxy was like, between The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, which they certainly do in season 2. I'm aware of that, but the build up to the Colossus's role in Exegol and give them another story arc that emotionally for all the characters could end in what's going on with them at Exegol, right? You get into that thing too of do you hear Lando's speech,
Right.
And what is it? Or is that a thing where people we want to imagine Lando's speech. We never want to hear it,
Yeah. That's a bigger question for another day, but I like that idea. I would want to hear it, just a version of it, like a hologram version of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But now I'm getting excited, especially after my Rebels rewatch. I might need to do a Resistance rewatch.
Here's the thing. I know it wasn't as watched, and it's skewed younger at times. You and I discussed some things we rubbed up against, but it's got wonderful characters, man. Jarek Yeager, a war veteran, struggling through a lot of things that happened there, is an amazing character. Tor Doza, the Doza family. You and I both love a lot of the characters in there, and it's worth revisiting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Totally 100% agreed on that. Star Wars Resistance Season 3, we are all for it. It's just a matter of when, both in the Star Wars timeline and in our Earth timeline.
Yeah.
And, of course, we want all the music that we just listed to feature in Star Wars Resistance as well.
Yeah.
With that, we're going to take a quick break. Back in a moment with questions from our patrons on Patreon. And we are back with questions from our patrons on Patreon. We go first to Robin Nilsson. Robin says, hello, I listened to one of your Q&A shows a while back, and you joked about asking for more mothers in Star Wars and getting Edie Karn. It made me laugh, but also thinking about all the other mothers we now have in Andor alone. There are 3 very different types, Edie, Mon, and Marva. In Rebels, Hera. In Kenobi, we got some quality time with Brea and even Beru. And in the sequel trilogy, Leia being there for not only Ben, but Rey, Poe, and Finn as well. So to my question, which 2 characters would you choose for parents? Robin says, my answer would be Qui-Gon and Shmi. And as a runner-up, Gardula and Shriv. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. If anybody's listening is like, Gardula and Shriv, give yourself the treat of a Google and look at that parenting team. That's amazing.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So again, like some of our other questions this week, we will get to the core question of, who we want our Star Wars parents to be. But how do you feel about the better presentation of mothers? I guess the more varied, having more mother figures, more tales that can be kind of looked at through a maternal lens. Robin lists a ton of them. How are you feeling about that?
I think Robin did a great job and just kind of reminding us and everyone that, hey, it's definitely provided us more options, more stories, and more characters and revisiting characters we already know, Brea and Beru. I mean, that's been one of the best things about this last year or so of Star Wars. I agree. I think you and I focusing on Edie Karn is, we discussed some of the reasons why. So I love it. I love it. And I want more, and I want more with these characters. Whether it's a season 2 of Kenobi, I am for that. I am all for a Lessons with Lil Leia spinoff series. She goes into like junior high. Give me that too as well, and give me more Breha Organa as well. She's a fascinating character, and Simone Kessel did a great job with it. So I like where we're at, and we always say we always want more, but to move the ball down the field and get more of these characters, it's been very noticeable.
Yeah, no, it's been great, and I think especially with Star Wars being one of its most famous core stories is the father figure of Vader, right? And then Rogue One, really, Lyra has a presence, right? But there's so much focus on Galen and that relationship. So I think it's great to have more. I think Robin's saying it, but what I really love about Andor is having all of these mother figures. So you can have a character like Edie, who is, in our opinion, clearly not a great mom. Maybe some problems there. But you can have that character because it's not like the show is saying like, this is our only mother character, so that's our commentary on moms. That's what they're like,
Yeah.
That to me is what is great about having lots of different perspectives. And I want to take every opportunity possible to share my strong opinion that this is one of the great things about Rise of Skywalker is everything that it did for Leia. It not only the sort of centering her as a Jedi and as just as important as Luke, right? Having her be Rey's Jedi Master, Jedi Mentor, but all those things that are in the film that really do paint her as the matron, the mother figure, not just of the rebellion and the resistance, but specifically having that sort of connection to Poe and Finn and Rey. And obviously, Ben's challenge is really hinging on whether or not he can ever go back to his mom. I just think it's so great to have elevated Leia's role as a mother so significantly in that film. It's there in The Last Jedi, it's there in The Force Awakens, but I feel like Rise of Skywalker really underlines it.
Yeah, I think it brought it home in a lot of ways. I'm with you on that, obviously, because all the points that I cry in the film.
Yeah. Yeah. So we are going to move on when I find my place. Because I realized I was about to start asking you about who you wanted your Star Wars parents to be, but then I remembered I also like that we have not necessarily literal biological moms or even adoptive moms, but we have mother figures in Mandalorian. I think both the Armor and Peli being kind of maternal figures to Din, even if the age difference isn't fully there, they're kind of playing that role, right, of a maternal figure, giving him some advice on how to get through the galaxy. Different
advice at best. Maybe wrong on one side. We're going to find out more. Though, I think the Armor did, I don't know. Din's all right. He has some good traits. So he must have picked up something along the way.
Exactly. Okay. Anyway, now we'll move on to Robin's actual question, which is picking some Star Wars parents. Did you come up with a list, Ken, or did you just got a one and done? These are my Star Wars parents.
A couple options here, and I wanted to be creative. I wanted to mix and match. I wanted to do a lot of great things, but sometimes you just got to answer with your heart here. And I'll say first, I think I love my mother, and she's great. I don't want anyone to think otherwise. I did just have a lot of some of the, not all. I want to be clear, not all of the characteristics of Edie Karn, but there's just some strong vibes that just I had to work through some things in Andor. So because I have that, I think I would want a little bit more Marva. Not all the time. Marva at the end of her life, and just some of the real hard truths that Andor needed to hear, that Cassian needed to hear, came from her. And not just how she inspired the community, but just those moments with him resonated with me in another way as well. And I think I could have used that at some point. Maybe though, Marva's like that cool aunt. I don't know. Maybe that's how that would work. Because on the other side, Leia is just absolutely one of my favorite characters. And everything you're saying about Rise of Skywalker is so right. She is the mother at the center of it all. But this is a Leia/Carrie thing. I almost think Leia for me would have ended up being just a wonderful grandma figure. My mom's mom was this wonderful 5'2", fiery redhead who went through just some horrible things and survived a lot and left us when she was 72. But it had that kind of like very protective, very good. Wasn't like the crazy, like, here, have a, actually I was going to say, have a sip of beer. She literally said, here, try beer one time. And then I was like, ew, she's like, good, don't drink that. But it was like that kind of counterbalance, right? I think Leia late in the game has some of that counterbalance energy. So like, what advice you get at home? Cool. But let me tell you how it really is. And let me tell you what you need. And that's a lot, I have to admit, that's a lot with some of the Carrie vibes. But Carrie and Leia forever intertwined, as we know. So that's where I go with that. And then my final answer, this is where I try to get creative. I try to mix and match. Hera and Kanan. I'd travel the galaxy with them. Let's do it. Raise me right.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, that is a great pick. I love when on the show they talk about the kids, like, especially on like missions where Ezra and Sabine are like blowing things up that they're not supposed to, and like, oh, what are the kids doing? We better go get the kids. Like, yeah. Yeah, you could not go wrong, I think, with Hera and Kanan as a great pick. And I know what you're saying about the great grandma energy of Leia and the elements of the character of Leia that were clearly gifted to the character from Carrie Fisher herself. Yeah. It feels like, I'm not a parent, but it feels like sometimes parents are like, they're trying to teach kids the way the world should work, right? And then you have a great sort of grandparent figure or a Marva aunt figure who goes like, yeah, Sesame Street is right. Everyone should share, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
So here's what you're really going to do, kid. And it's still coming from a place of love, but a little bit more of that sort of hard knocks.
Yes.
Let's look at the reality,
Totally. Yeah. Just some hard truths. Casa, you need to hear this.
Yeah. Hard truths, but with love, right? The total stereotype of like, hey, whenever I go over to grandma's house, she's got some treats. She gives me $5 and she tells me the bleeping truth.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Very tempting. Very tempting. So I got in this weird place where I was kind of trying to mix and match. And then I was like, okay. Yeah. I was like, wait, no, that doesn't work age wise. What, am I breaking up another relationship to do this? Like, I wasn't sure exactly how to approach it. So, this one, I'm going to start weird. But Bail and Beru, like, look, I'm not trying to break up their marriage. I'm not trying to do like, a Star Wars key bowl party here.
1975 key bowl party. Love it.
Yeah. I'm just talking about a different reality. I'm just picking two characters the same age. I just think it's, Bail is just such a strong centered presence, right? Like, absolutely great father material. You've talked eloquently about how much you love his scenes and his relationship with Leia, but just like the clear amount of guidance, like he's going to help you do anything. He knows how to do a ton of stuff. And if he doesn't know how to do it, he's going to figure it out and help you learn to do it. Right. And there's just such love that I forgot about that great Kenobi scene where Leia is, doubting that she's a real Organa, and just his performance is so great. And then Beru, man, we've talked about Beru too, but like that, I've always liked Beru because she was the one who wanted to let Luke grow up.
Yes.
Teach him how to be strong, let him go. Then when they need us, we'll be here for them. Like that's I really like that. And then knowing that she's like, well, I'm not going to tell my husband, but I'm going to have our farm kitted out for battle.
Shotguns everywhere.
Yeah, I like to imagine that they were everywhere. And like after that event, Owen's like checking every corner. He's like, Brew, I found like 18 sawed-off blasters. Yeah. But just that, and I think that just that difference between Bale, being a politician, being someone kind of the galaxy, and Brew being someone who is like very, very down to earth, right? Yeah. So those two occurred to me. I got two others. One is like I'm not trying to matchmake. This isn't my Star Wars dating app. But they are alive around the same time and have some different things to teach. I think they get along well. Din Djarin and Ahsoka Tano.
I mean, that's because we're kind of experiencing moments of that, aren't we?
Yeah. I guess they do have moments of co-parenting Grogu, don't they?
Yeah.
Maybe this is just I want to be Grogu. I want to be. Yeah. I want to ride around in a pram and use the Force when I feel like it. No, I just think Din Djarin is this amazing father story, right? Who I don't think he ever went out of his way to say Mandalorians are dads. That's what they are. But this journey with Grogu of like, what I can't allow. A foundling, a youngling, to see a Mandalorian as a threat. We're caregivers because that's how I first encountered Mandalorians. And not really having the emotional capacity or like knowledge, but building it out. Just that dad who doesn't quite know what they're doing, but loves you a lot, so they're going to figure it out. That's appealing. And I just think Ahsoka. I think Ahsoka has a lot to offer in terms of guidance.
Yeah.
And if you were a teen, right, and you got your first car and you smacked it up, Ahsoka wouldn't be like, "You've messed everything." She'd be like, "Yeah, I've done that."
Let me tell
Did you get a bunch of Y-wings and blown up? Yeah, then it's okay that you put a dent in your car.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's great.
Yeah. And my final one. This is super weird. I would like to imagine that I am a clone of Luke Skywalker, discovered on Exegol, and then I am raised by Rey and Finn.
So you're Luke with 4 U's. I like that.
Yeah. And I'll just do Luke 2. I'll just be Luke 2. That's fine with me.
I'm going to just add a wrinkle in that. Raised by Rey, Finn, and Poe.
Right.
All 3 of them. You get quadrants covered.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just an aunt and 2 uncles who know a lot. Probably have some disagreements. Like, hey, if you get 3 parents, you can really play Finn told me I could do this. Rey told me I could do this.
That's cool.
Who do you think out of the 3 of them, if the 3 of them together were co-parenting, who's the strictest? Who's the one who says no the most?
I actually think in a weird way it might be Poe. It wouldn't be
right
Rey.
There with you.
Yeah, it wouldn't be Rey because Rey, so self-sufficient, did so much on her own, would really be like, hey, I had no rule. Like, you got to go out and find your way. Finn, for obvious reasons, might be like, I don't like authoritarian figures coming down on children. But Poe is so a rock and roll wild child, rebelled against his father. I really do love that book by Alex about his youth in relation with his father. And so I think there would be a little bit of, Poe, the punishment for Poe would be having a child just like him, right? Where he'd be like, oh, no, I was. So I think there'd be some kind of mix that he would emerge the most rule following parent.
I think you broke it down perfectly. I think Finn's Force gifts are also very intuitive, so I think he'd really be on your wavelength and he'd understand how you're feeling. So that would help a lot. I love the picture of Rey of like, I mean, we have that in the real world, right? Of people like, well, I just used to go out on my bike and I just have to be home by 10 p.m. No helmet. I'd eat things I found on the ground. Nobody cared. I turned out fine, right? I think Rey would have a little of that, like, you don't need a helmet on a shuttle. I built my own speeder. You don't need a helmet on a speeder.
It's a very generational reference, but Rey was a latchkey kid, and so she gets it.
in the biggest way. Instead of waiting for your parents to come home at about 6 or 7, she's been waiting for them to come home for years and years and years. Yeah, absolutely. And then in Poe is the like totally not getting that other people need to experience what you did, right? Like, it's like, no, hey, I tried out Rebellion. It doesn't work real well. Don't do it. I'm like, come on, Poe. Kids got to go through it themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. We might have kicked off a firestorm by analyzing the parenting techniques of the heroes of the sequel trilogy. But that's a great question, Robin. We are going to move on to our final question from Sean Bushnowski. I hope I got close on the pronunciation. My apologies if I did not. Sean says, hi, ForceCenter crew. My question relates to Imperial officers and personnel. Rewatching the first season of Bad Batch and now with the first few episodes of season 2 out, I've really enjoyed the addition of Admiral Rampart to the saga, but in a love to root against him kind of way. Now, it's easy to have soft spots for some officers, like Ken with Jar Gerard, but who are some of your favorites to root against? This is a fun question, and I really agree about Admiral Rampart, really enjoying him in season 2. Yeah. So, Ken, you have a soft spot for Jar Gerard and some other rebels as well, but who do you just love to hate?
This was hard, Sean, because I always said I love my Imperial officers, which is weird to say, especially as time moves on. And in trying to form this list, I was like, no, I'm kind of rooting for them too. Piet, you deserve that promotion. So yeah, there's some options. So I had to dig a little deeper, and I do start with one that is I don't know if it's obvious, but Conan Antonio Modi. From the Death Star conference room, gets choked by Vader. That guy, Modi, because what he's standing for, he is such like, even Vader's like, hey, this thing isn't, strategically, this isn't the best. Spiritually, it might not be the best. I'm not saying he's trying to save lives, but Vader's and Moti's just like, no, this is going to be great. We're literally going to wipe people out. It's awesome. We're going to use fear of this battle station, which we just kind of know what that means. Whether or not we might not have to, just fear itself will be the weapon. In his head, he's like, Krennic told me, I heard about this before Scarif. Tarkin told me how it worked so well on Scarif. Krennic. I'm excited. I want to see it. So I'm rooting against him. Whereas like Cassio Tag, even Palpatine later on promotes him because he's like, yeah, you were the only one really in that room other than Vader to be like, the rebels could expose this weakness here. So you root for him, root against Modi. Then I go to Blevin from Andor, ISB. He's such a great job. We and a lot of fans found ourselves oddly rooting for Dedra Meero along the way. Blevin, part of that is because of Blevin. Part of that is just want him to get his. So that's an answer. Then I went to Rebels, actually. Governor Price and Admiral Constantine.
Ooh, yeah.
Very, very easy to root for. Price, in a weird way, how do I say this? I'll just say it. She's this woman that's rose in the Empire, very hardworking, very hardworking. A lot of her stories in the Thrawn novels that accompany the Rebels at period of time. But she's the one that would still say, but yeah, her emails when voting. And she does not, she rises in power and uses that power for a wrong reason. And maybe had face things along the way that you could justify some of her anger, rage, and problems. Just make some bad choices along the way. So I had no problem rooting for her. She was a problem for me. Constantine, just a smug Imperial, got his. And then my final one, it's so funny the timing. The timing is, on a small level, I think this character might be on yours, and I had to look up the name. I got a text from our pal Alden Diaz, Octo Radio, controversial Twitter personality. He was like, "Do you know the name of the Imperial officer that says Rebel scum in From the Jedi?" And I said, "At one point I did. Joseph probably does. I don't study anymore. I don't know his name." So he said, "Well, here's the answer. So it's Officer Rend." And I'm
yeah.
Like, come on. You rebel scum. Like, I want a power pack tossed in your face like Colonel Dyer, and I want you to so you don't have enough time to root against Dyer. He's just gone. But that guy, Officer Rent, I want him to get his.
Oh yeah, no, and I think he does. Yeah, that's a great pick. Yeah, and I have lost a lot of my trivia, but Ren's, I think, because it sounds like a good name to root against.
Yes.
You wrens. Love it. Great list. I think I do have soft spots. I realize I have a big soft spot for Piet, and I always have. I think because you see both the competence and the vulnerability, right? There's so many Imperial officers who are totally cocky, right? Or totally rigid and uncreative, right? Or clumsy and stupid, as Vader himself says. And Piet clearly, in just those few scenes, has savvy and competence, and has that like real awareness of like, yep. I realize that the severance package from the Empire is death. So I'm going to be real careful. I've always loved Piet, and Hux. I don't know. He's so evil, but so pathetic.
Yes.
That I got a soft spot for him too. I know our question wasn't soft spot, but I wanted to create some contrast there. For rooting against I got one not obscure, but one smaller role in the general canon. But I mean, my honest answer is two big ones. And the first is Tarkin. I mean, I enjoyed that Tarkin book. It's been a long time. It was great to understand his perspective, but understanding someone's perspective doesn't necessarily in any way mean agreeing with it, and his isn't a super tragic background, right? It isn't like say Anakin or Ben Solo, who went through some hard things and got manipulated. He's like, he grew up in a culture that really believed everybody's out for themselves and it's kill or be killed. And that's the way everything works, period. Right. So you understand where he came from, but that cold, cruel efficiency above all things, and that is never to be questioned. That vibe in the Clone Wars episodes, particularly when we meet him, and that same vibe when he pops up in Rebels, and it's like it's the first crack in Callus's armor that we see of people fail and they just get executed, and Tarkin's like, great, that's life. Get used to it. And Tarkin's so great in A New Hope because he does have that one flicker of doubt in his cockiness,
Yes.
And that, So anyway, other big one is Krennic. I'm never on Krennic's side. I'm never hoping that things turn out for him. So I really, in terms of a favorite to root against, like I love watching Krennic. I'd read 8 Krennic books. I'd watch a Krennic miniseries, because the character is charming and interesting, but I never want him to win in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, there's a lot to Krennic that we've talked about over the years. There's just this, it is the tale of middle management, but it's the tale of someone just, your heart burning for the wrong things, ambition, power, all those kind of things that play. It's done in a fascinating way. And a lot of it, obviously, Ben Mendelsohn's so great, which is why I hope we get a little more Krennic.
I would love some Krennic in Andor. That would be great, because it is just one of those characters of like, hey, I can see storytelling reasons that would be interesting for him to show up, but he's also just one of those characters of like, I would like to spend more time with that character, please. So I can root against him. And speaking of the general Andor timeline, the other one for me in Andor was the one episode wonder, J-Hold Behas. It was, I think that the Imperial officers in the First Order officers are in some ways the hardest to write, because some of them have popped up in books or comics where I feel like maybe not enough variation has been found, right? Because you have the overly rigid, you have the incompetent, you have the climbing, you have the ones who have a specific vendetta against a rebel or resistance, like, and it's easy for them to sort of fall into these tropes, and then you're like, where's the spark that makes them unique, And J-Hold Behas, I think, was one of these. He represented all those things, right? The climbing, the cruelty, the disdain for other cultures, the absolute assurance that the Empire was correct in every way. But like so many things in Andor, it was this really grounded, real world, like, you see that's who this person is through and through. That's the way they treat their family, right? And down to that heart attack, which like I feel real bad saying I don't feel bad for somebody who had a heart attack,
Right.
but so much work is put in that one episode to show you this is a person who is rotted to the core, in every way, not just their job, right? But the way they treat their family, the way they look at other cultures, everything. So he's a character that I love every second of him on screen, because I'm so rooting against him.
Yeah. It's weird to think it is a one shot. You're right. Kind of one and done.
Fills up so much space in that episode. It's hard to believe it's only one episode, but
yeah.
Well, there you go. There is a bunch of Star Wars characters we love to hate. That's about as negative as we get on ForceCenter. That's the most we've used the word hate in a long time.
Yeah.
But a very, very fun question. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, everybody who sent in a question. We're going to go on to our Power of the Light side. If you're a patron on Patreon, we still have our prompt up. Just look under the tab for posts. And if you want to share a moment or a thing or anything you love about Star Wars, feel free. This one comes to us from Paul Denuzzo. And Paul says, "Greetings. I would like to share 2 memories of Star Wars with regards to my children. My firstborn, Alex, was born in 2000, right after The Phantom Menace. They grew up with it, and I used to watch them all the time, and it got to the point where if a single note of Duel of the Fates was heard, they would drop anything they were doing and run to get their lightsaber because it was duel time." Much more recently, my youngest son, who is 16, is not into Star Wars as much. He loves anime, such as Attack on Titan and Mob Psycho. We've gotten together and we bond by going back and forth. He watches Star Wars with me, and I watch whatever anime he chooses. He is enjoying Star Wars much more now, and while he may never love it like I do, it is a good time together. Right now, we're in the 5th season of Clone Wars. We found one thing we can bond over: Hondo Ohnaka. Hondo is my son's favorite character, and he lights up anytime Hondo is on screen. That's it. I love the positivity and energy you guys bring to our favorite galaxy far, far away. And as I start up a podcast of my own with fellow Force Center fan Maddie Gunner called Holy Snokes, a Star Wars podcast on PLD Projects, always be plugging, we can only hope to emulate the tone, positivity, and genuine love of Star Wars. Thank you, Paul, for the kind words, and congrats on the podcast. Ken, what are your thoughts, reactions to these happy Star Wars memories?
Love it. And PLD is wonderful. He was one of the co-writers of the Schmodown trivia show. A lot of the great trivia questions. Working Remember the Titans into a Star Wars question was a feather in his cap last season. It was amazing. And this is wonderful. Just talks about the spirit of a lot of what we are going in here. You and I aren't parents, as we've said before. Jen is. So I don't know the struggle of having a child who looks at Star Wars and goes, Dad, not as much for me. I mean, I don't know what that means, and I don't, go live your life. Like, I don't want to make my life yours. So to have something to bond over and have it be so specific as Hondo and Naka, just again goes to what we talk about: a point of view, perspectives, entry points in the Star Wars. And there's always going to be something for someone that gets you on in. Maybe it's Gonki. Maybe it's Hondo and Naka. Maybe it is a Hapabor. Something might connect you and you don't know when. And it just speaks to the wide, wonderful world of Star Wars. So, Paul, it's wonderful. Maddie's great. We're going to see Maddie over there at Star Wars Celebration over there in the UK. He's making great music over there. So wonderful stuff there. Thanks for celebrating with us.
Yeah, absolutely. I love hearing these different stories about how people's kids react to Star Wars. I love the utterly classic, just the thrill of the lightsaber. I love the idea that Duel of the Fates is like just this almost Pavlovian response. Like, all right, it's time. Let's go. I love that. I still feel that way sometimes as an adult. And yeah, I love hearing what different entertainment storytelling is grabbing people, and then kind of maybe how they see Star Wars through the filter of it. So I would love to hear, a kid who is super into anime and then comes to Star Wars, like what connections they find, other than the actual anime Star Wars and Visions. So that's great. And always a shout out to Hondo. All right, Ken, that is our How Are the Light Side. Those are our questions. Where can people find us?
You can find us on Twitter at ForceCenter Pod. We're on Hive Social at ForceCenter. Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. We're on Instagram and YouTube as well. Don't forget Figure Fights coming in February and some more stuff. So get ready. Subscribe over there on YouTube if you haven't already. Podcast available on a lot of different spots, including iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. Just search. You'll find us. Merch available at tpublic.com/ForceCenter/ tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. All the years. I finally missed it. Don't forget to head over there and order a shirt so you can wear it at Star Wars Celebration, and we can find you easier in a crowd. You can find us by just walking around the convention floor holding pints of lager. Patreon.com/ForceCenters, where you can support us directly. You can find me at Ken Napzok or my website, KenNapzok.com. I'm highlighting my show, The Blathering, on my Napzok Network podcast feed. Same podcast feed I've had since 2013. Just did some rebranding and have a new show that's a little more definitely off the cuff, a little bit more from the heart on some bigger issues in life. It's called The Blathering. Check it out over there. Joseph, where can they find and follow you?
Yeah, you can find me on almost all the social media. My handle everywhere is at Joseph Scrimshaw. I'm still on Twitter. I'm on Hive. I'm on Mastodon. I'm on TikTok. Some more people are coming and joining me over on Instagram. I would love to see more people on Instagram. It's a pleasant space. As social media goes, Instagram's quite pleasant. So trying to spend a little bit more time there. You can also go to my YouTube channel. I am posting some of my not unboxing videos there. I'll be posting some more stuff. I've got a video that I'm a short film that I'm prepping to release in late January or early February. So new stuff coming. So please subscribe now if you are interested. That is it. But for myself, for Ken, for Hondo Onaka, and the question of whether he'd be a good parent in Star Wars, this has been Cues of the Force.